and welcome to CATSweek. I'm Annalise Poorman. Monroe County Health Administrator Penny Cottle spoke about COVID-19 vaccination clinic closure procedures during the February 19th COVID-19 press conference. She said that patients can choose how to be notified of a closure.
When you register for an appointment and you put a phone number in, they will ask you how you want to be alerted, for instance, in an emergency, or if an appointment needs to be changed for some other reason. If you put in a phone number, it is really asking you for a cell phone number because it's going to send you a text if it needs to contact you. So if you have a cell number as opposed to a landline, use that instead of the landline. The landline is helpful for us because we could go in and see that and go ahead and contact somebody that way. The other thing is that you can put in an email. If you use email, if that's your preferred means of contact, make sure you're checking your spam email to make sure that it's not in there. I know we all get lots of things that go into that spam.
According to Cottle, due to weather-related concerns, fewer COVID-19 tests have been taken. She said this may cause a lower reported rate of community spread. IU Health South Central Region President Brian Shockney said the COVID-19 numbers saw a continued decrease.
We continue to see a decline in our COVID inpatients, which means the severity of the illness and the spread of the illness is also much lower in our community. As of yesterday, our IU Health ICUs statewide were at 62% occupied regionally, and our IU Health ICUs were 39% occupied here in Bloomington. This continued decrease in ICU numbers is a welcome change for our team members, but most importantly for our patients.
Monroe County Commissioner Julie Thomas said about 10% of the Monroe County population has been vaccinated. Indiana University Assistant Vice President for Engagement, Kirk White, said vaccinated frontline workers may have a chance at obtaining tickets to watch NCAA basketball games.
The tournament that will be hosted at Indiana University at Simon Scott Assembly Hall, the 18th through the 20th of March, will welcome up to 500 spectators. Now, before you run and jump to look at your ticket numbers, that includes the coaches, the staff members, families of team members, and things like that. So that will take the majority of those 500 spectator tickets. Any remaining tickets, we hope to be able to allocate to first responders and healthcare providers in Monroe County because of the great work that they have done and because they will have been vaccinated. And that will, of course, control the spread.
Cottle said vaccination rates could factor into the decision-making process when it comes to lessening county-wide restrictions. The Ellettsville Town Council discussed payroll changes during their February 22nd meeting. Clerk-Treasurer Sandra Hash spoke about the pay period changes.
I've asked Darla to amend our code to make our pay period change from Friday through Thursday. It will now be Monday through Sunday. And then the other change is on the longevity. And we used to get longevity $250 for every 5 years, and you only got it once every 5 years. And with the salary ordinance and the wage study, we'll now get that every year.
Hash said the pay date would remain the same. Councilmember Scott Oldham said payroll procedures had been carried out with supervision from Hash or Deputy Clerk Amber Regal-Wright.
The way it's been set up under code, one of these two has had to be present every Wednesday when payroll is done, and literally trying to do payroll within 2 hours. And that's just, again, kind of unconscionable on our part that we haven't seen fit to change this or known about this, because it puts these two in a real bind, particularly if one of them is on vacation or one of them's sick, or take your pick of whatever else is happening in the world. And it just gives them zero time to make any type of emergency adjustments or any type of adjustments in their own life should something happen. And we've got to correct that. We just can't leave these two in the lurch, because quite frankly, if one or none of these ladies is present, nobody gets paid.
The Town Council will hold a second hearing on payroll changes during a future Town Council meeting. The Bloomington Board of Park Commissioners approved the sale of alcohol during community events at Switchyard Park. Facility Coordinator Bill Ream spoke about sale regulations during their February 23rd meeting.
The staff will utilize local vendors to provide the alcohol and will work with the vendors to secure a bar area where individuals 21 and over will be able to purchase and consume alcohol within a designated area at various department-run events at the park.
Ream said alcohol would be sold at public events such as the Performing Arts Series, concerts, and movies. He said the vendor would be responsible for following all internal requirements, and 10% of profits would go to the Parks Department. Commissioner Jim Whitlatch asked Ream about security practices.
Who's responsible if somebody gets too intoxicated and deciding they don't get served anymore? We certainly don't want somebody to drive away and have an accident. I'm not against it at all. In fact, I'm in favor of it. It makes for a nice event. I just want to make sure that the ball doesn't get dropped between us and the vendors and everybody else. And then I guess the question that goes along with that, do we have, what kind of insurance do we have that will cover this type of event? Do we have insurance to cover that?
I will start, and then I'm sure Paula can answer more. As far as the vendor is responsible for checking IDs, for being aware of the amount of alcohol being served and all that. As a staff, we will watch that as well.
Director Becky Higgins said all state regulations would be followed and security would be required for any vendor serving alcohol. She said only beer and wine would be served during park events. Also during the Board of Park Commissioners meeting, board members approved a partnership agreement with El Mercado. Banneker Community Center Program Specialist Corey Hawkins spoke about the agreement.
I'm here seeking approval of a partnership agreement with El Mercado in support of a monthly market to be hosted at Banneker Community Center, highlighting Black, Indigenous, persons of color, artisans, and small business owners. In November 2019, the Bloomington Parks Foundation received close to $200,000 grant from Regional Opportunities Initiatives to create a community cultural hub at the Banneker Community Center to foster and celebrate diversity and inclusion within Bloomington and Monroe County.
Hawkins said the market would be located in the Banneker Center Gymnasium. And we'll have more CATSweek after this message.
Let's talk about sex.
What is consent?
And what's not?
Consent is based on choice.
Consent is active, not passive.
Consent is giving permission without feeling pressure.
What is not consent?
Silence.
Passed out.
Intoxicated.
Fear.
It is not consent.
Got consent?
Ask.
Sex without consent is a crime. Only yes means yes.
Welcome back to CATSweek. The Monroe County Community School Board heard an overview about the STEM to Them mobile lab during their February 23rd meeting. Assistant Superintendent Dr. Mark A. Winston said the mobile lab classroom was the result of a $1.2 million grant from Regional Opportunities Initiative.
STEM to Them really represents our effort about equity in action. We recognize that in order for every student in MCCSE, part of the vision was that every student, no matter which school, no matter which zip code, they would have access and opportunity to have really high quality STEAM-related learning experiences. And so our focus was, let's take the STEAM experiences to every student wherever they are. And so that's how, just in casual conversation, the name STEM to Them was coined.
Winston said the mobile lab includes curriculum for computer science, robotics, and engineering. Director of Elementary Education, Dr. Deborah Prenkert, said the bus includes multiple working stations, device charging stations, dry erase board cabinets, and wheelchair accessibility. Board member April Hennessy asked Prenkert about the bus's travel agenda.
Is there a plan for how it will sort of circulate or be used in the district?
Yeah, I can answer that question. So we're so excited. We've already scheduled some bus tours. So it's already making its way starting this Thursday to our elementary schools. Our hope is to get it to every elementary around spring break, at least one time, so students can see it. They've heard about it. They're excited about it. Our Maker Challenge winners from our 4th grade Maker Challenge, we're going to actually let them go on the bus. Obviously, we can't have too many people on there one at a time right now with social distancing and cleaning protocol, but we are going to let them actually get to go on to see it. But then next year, our hope is that we would do the computer science and coding curriculum in the fall, and then visit every school again, second semester, where we would do the engineering design process and the Maker curriculum.
The next MCCSC School Board meeting will be held on March 23rd. The Monroe County Commissioners considered an agreement with Justin Crossley Production Design for the Youth Services Bureau during their February 24th meeting. Shelter Outreach and Safe Place Coordinator Bridget Nasby said the contract was for video production.
The videos we hope will expand the visibility and outreach capability of YSB. Our goal is, for the project is to open the doors to YSB safely right now. Through the community through virtual content. It will include a virtual tour of YSB, a video explaining who we are and what it means to be a Youth Services Bureau, and a welcome video specifically to our youth shelter.
Nasby said the videos would be used to introduce young people to the shelter and to expand community awareness. Commissioner Penny Githens asked Nasby where the videos would be shown.
Where, like the Who We Are video, where all will that be shown? What kind of platforms will those go up on?
So for all of our videos, what I'm hoping to really do here is, one, to have it available to the public via our website, but then through all of our social media channels as well. So we do Facebook, so having it there. This will also be integrated into probably any of our public presentations that we're using.
The commissioners unanimously approved the agreement. The Bloomington City Council heard an amendment to the Bloomington Municipal Code regarding protections for people experiencing homelessness. Councilmember Kate Rosenbarger presented the amendment during their February 24th meeting.
Ideally, every person in our community would have safe and accessible housing. Nobody thinks it's ideal for people to sleep outside, especially in the winter. However, the reality is that some people temporarily lack housing and may be unable to go to emergency shelters. The purpose of this ordinance is to answer the question, when a person experiencing homelessness is unable to go to a shelter, where are they legally allowed to sleep?
Rosenbarger said that the ordinance was modeled after a 2016 ordinance passed by the Indianapolis City Council, and that the ordinance was drafted with assistance from people with lived experiences.
So we have developed the ordinance while in direct consultation with people with lived experiences, so people experiencing homelessness, the Bloomington Homeless Coalition, the sponsor of the Indianapolis Ordinance, city and council staff, and area homelessness service providers.
Rosenbarger said the ordinance would allow city officials to designate areas on public property for camps. She said the areas must meet 3 criteria.
First, it must be within 1 mile of organizations that provide free meals at least 5 days a week. Second, it must allow adequate space for unsheltered people. And third, it must include access to restrooms.
Rosenbarger said the city must work to place campsite members into housing, and the camp could not be cleared unless all residents were offered a form of housing. She said only an emergency would constitute a camp clearing. Parks and Recreation Director Paula McDevitt said parks are intended for all community members.
The Parks Department makes available to everyone in our community access to parks, trails, programs, services, and natural areas, to the whole community, and not just one user group at the exclusivity of others. Anyone is welcome in our parks from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. The department events, programs, and public spaces and uses by members of our community are limited time uses with a beginning and an end time in particular spaces in each park, thereby making the same spaces open available for others to use when the same spaces are vacated. Allowing camping in any of our parks would take over a space for an extended period of time, of which we don't know how long that would be, and thereby not making these spaces available to others to use, or in other words, monopolizing an area to the exclusion of others being able to use the space.
McDevitt said that the Parks Department does not have the appropriate staff to maintain a campground. City Attorney Philippa Guthrie said the ordinance had various legal issues.
The city could conceivably be challenged by either individuals who think an emergency declared by the city is invalid, or individuals who think the city should have declared an emergency but did not. Section 30A requires that before displacing individuals in camps, the city must provide written notice. It does allow that conspicuous posting near the camp would suffice, but it also continues after that to say that all reasonable efforts should still be made to provide individualized notice to campers. We don't know what all reasonable efforts means. That's something that somebody could challenge.
Guthrie also said the ordinance does not mention a number of people allowed to be within the campsite, which would cause conflict with state fire code. Councilmember Steve Volan asked Police Chief Mike Dekoff where someone would go if they cannot sleep at a park.
There's literally no place for anyone to go. I don't understand how that. I don't know how to. I just ask your response to that.
There's a lot of discretion that police officers use every day. Just because someone may be sleeping on private property behind a building doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to get arrested. And so the parks are a little bit different situation. There are established hours for the parks. And being in a park after hours is technically trespassing, which could be enforced with a misdemeanor arrest.
Community member Dan Combs said progress cannot be made by slowing down for ordinance perfection. Director of Beacon Incorporated, Reverend Forrest Gilmore, also spoke about the ordinance.
This ordinance is not a solution to homelessness. It's not in any way a solution to homelessness, and I don't want it to be presented that way or suggested that it is that. What this is an attempt to decriminalize sleeping outside. And I think why that's so important to understand and so important to really think about is that has actually been deemed the criminalization of sleeping outside has actually been deemed unconstitutional, a violation of the 8th Amendment as cruel and unusual punishment.
No final decision was made, and the next discussion on the ordinance will be held on March 3rd. And we'll have more CATSweek after this message.
For hurting families in Monroe County.
A contribution to children who are vulnerable and in need of an advocate.
A staff that goes above and beyond to support and advocate for children in need of services.
The web of remarkable people who are dealing with difficult situations.
So many young people that are in need of help and trying to find a stable family, a stable place to live. Without the CASAs to make that happen, many of them would be unable to find a good home.
I love being that voice for the child who can't speak for themselves in court.
It takes me out of my comfort zone, and it also helps others.
CASA means supporting our community.
Being a CASA is making sure that your village is healthy and whole, and that the children in your village will someday be able to help the village as well.
A child who doesn't have a voice, maybe in their family situation or a school situation, now has a voice that can advocate for them.
I really enjoy working with children that are going through difficult times and letting them know that I care about their future.
We are privileged with our charge of representing the best interest of children. And so therefore we can advocate for exactly what they need without restriction, focusing on their best interest.
I want to repair the world one child at a time.
Welcome back to CATSweek. Bloomington Mayor John Hamilton delivered the 2021 State of the City Address on February 25th. Hamilton highlighted the changes that 2020 brought to the city and its families.
Think back just a year ago. Last year's State of the City was February 20th. I did not mention the words coronavirus or COVID. I didn't foresee what was coming. The first reported US COVID-19 death was just over a week away then in the state of Washington. Let's think back. What has happened to your family and you since then? To your workplace or your school, your friendships, your daily patterns, your home and gatherings with others, your plans, your worries. A city is a great big family, a collection of thousands of individual family stories that make up Bloomington's story.
Hamilton thanked the numerous essential workers who fought to keep the community functioning and said that 2020 was not the end of hard times.
The worst pandemic in 100 years is not over. That is job one, to climb out of it and save lives. We will, but it will take many more months, perhaps all year. Continued strong cooperation among our health sector players and continued good individual actions, distancing and masking are essential and will steer us to the calmer waters. Please, we have to stay the course even while relief is in sight. In the meantime, our economy is in a serious recession. Certain sectors in a depression.
Hamilton said the initiation of Recover Forward provided the community with over $8 million to combat the effects of the economic recession and mentioned 5 other large city projects which are currently underway.
1, many Bloomingtonians face serious housing insecurity. Together, in the past 5 years, we've created or preserved nearly 1,400 bedrooms of affordable housing, and another 5,000 at market rate. Even as we continue this focus, we know many more are needed to address real pressures felt by so many of our neighbors or future residents. And the pandemic only intensifies the need and the risks. I greatly appreciate our United Way and Community Foundation stepping up to coordinate a regional response for our community. Number 2, we have big infrastructure projects underway and in the pipeline. Thanks to the bicentennial bonds, we anticipate 4 major new trails at the 7 line, at Griffey Lake, at Cascades, and from Switchyard Park past RCA Park. We will open 2 downtown garages this year, 1 replacement and 1 supporting new jobs in the trades district. We're investing nearly $40 million for historic upgrades to our downtown stormwater system, wastewater plant expansions, and water main replacements. We're adding electric buses and improving bus stops and expanding sidewalks and activating downtown alleys. All of this investment helps our city and supports hundreds of precious local jobs too.
Hamilton said the city has also committed to a hospital site redevelopment plan, created a new unified development ordinance, and climate action plan. He said future decisions are to be made about the convention center site expansion and the John Waldron Arts Center. Hamilton described future work towards climate and racial justice.
Our community has been working on these 2 issues for years, on inclusion, investing in economic recovery with more and better jobs and more housing security. Our divided communities racial equity plan and new task forces, anti-racism training, and on sustainability, a climate action plan this spring, building on last year's sustainability action plan, a green ribbon panel by fall, and all the many historic efforts toward a more walkable, greener, high-quality city.
Hamilton said the city would work to align their ambitious goals with the available resources. At their February 25th meeting, the Bloomington Historic Preservation Commission discussed the restoration of a commercial storefront that was damaged by an automobile accident. The building is located at 118 South College Avenue. Petitioner Victor Gutierrez spoke about finding a match for the damaged bronze window frame.
We have been looking for the closest metal we might be able to find to match that, but we have not found anything that closely resembles the historical one. We did, however, get a sample for an anodized aluminum frame, which would be powder coated in dark bronze to match the color of the original and get as close as we can to that original look of the metal.
Board member Duncan Campbell asked whether it was possible to repair the original bronze frame. Gutierrez said plans to replace the existing damaged door with a window pane would not allow for repair.
We have looked into repairs. The storefront did take quite a bit of damage, and another issue would be with the extension to where the door is. We would have to, we wouldn't have any existing material to extend to that side.
No action was taken, and the commission members continued the hearing until their March 11th meeting. And that is all for CATSweek. Thank you for joining us. For CATS and WFHB, I'm Annalise Poorman.